Previously on Handbook for Mortals.
So, what are your intentions with my company, daughter? I don't believe in that tarot hogwash. Nah.
Oh.
What I do?
Oh.
Our harrowing rehearsal arc finally comes to a close. Sherry and Charles have finessed their new illusion, which has been kept tightly under wraps.
Everyone had to sign agreements stating that they wouldn't share what they knew, and that meant that they couldn't even talk about it with any of the other cast and crew.
This is how we're gonna start, huh? Everyone involved had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. There, I saved you 24 words, Serum. The illusion itself is supposedly impossible to pull off by non-magical means, so the less people pestering her to break the magician's code, the better. Charles treats everyone to "I can't believe it's not Denny's," right after the rehearsal. Half the joint's been reserved for them. They get varying looks from the remaining half of the patrons, since Spellman didn't give the performers 10 minutes to fix their hair and wash their damn makeup off. Thanks, Charles. So, Creepy Daddy assumes his seat at the head of the table. Sophia instinctively takes the only spot next to him, and then everyone else files in. Everyone except for Sherry and Mac, who stand around awkwardly, incapable of ingratiating themselves with the rest of the NPCs. Sherry just so happens to be standing close enough to Charles to hear him discreetly boot Sophia from her spot because he needs his true starlet to sit next to him. Sophia is ready to object, but he nips that in the bud. Don't make a big deal about this,
Charles warned, fixing Sophia with a stare that made it clear that this was not up for discussion.
Boo! Okay, look, I may have gone a little hard simping for this eccentric piece of shit daddy last chapter, but I haven't forgotten where my loyalties lie. Jesus, I just really dislike how Sophia is so consistently disrespected and degraded by every dude. It's the one surefire consistent thing that's going on in this book, and it has to be this. It's not fair. When will the needless bullying end, Sarah? When? Our best girl yields as she is put in her place. She then stands and ushers Mac, who has heard none of this, by the way. He's just a bundle of question marks. She ushers him to the kids' table.
Knowing where they rank now,
Sherry tries to give Mac a sympathetic look in confused solidarity, but her attention is nudged away by Jackson,
who happened to be in the seat that had been next to Sophia.
Which, okay, sure, honey. He just shoved Human Mel and all other friends and fellow performers aside just so he could sit by Sophia, the woman he dunked on for being uglier on the inside compared to Sherry, and also laughed off her accidental fall as more damaging to her ego more than anything else. I will bring that up every single chance I get. But no, he just coincidentally nabs the seat next to her. Sure, Jan. As if he totally didn't stealth kill the actual poor soul who originally sat by Sophia the millisecond Charles ordered her to beat it. It's all good though, as Charles wants Jackson there anyway to talk intro music or whatever. I mean, spoiler alert, they never do that. But okay. Partway into the shindig, Charles gives a portion of his toast, thanking everyone for all their hard work during their grueling rehearsals. There are cheers, yada yada, and then he closes it off with, "Most importantly, I would like to thank Sherry for coming to join our little family. She has made our show that much better and has elevated us all. She helped kick the dust off and brought in some new and much needed blood. My little starlet." Wink. If Sherry, I only have one act as far as the reader knows, holder, has elevated the group that much, maybe the production was never fantastic as the book really didn't even try that hard to sell in the first place. And I really feel like I said a statement like that in past chapters too. So I just think this show might suck, guys. Also, the My Little Starlet moniker seems rather flirtatious, not gonna lie. I bet Sophia's gotta be feeling really great seeing her daddy seemingly hit on another woman right in front of her salad. Man, that dick better be ballin'. I mean, girl better be seeing stars on the daily for the amount of bullshit she endures with this dickhead. Damn.
Sherry notices Mac looking frustrated as he chats with an equally frustrated Sophia. Sherry was pretty sure that he wasn't upset that she wasn't seated time him.
Weird typo aside, I highly doubt this sentiment.
We've seen Mac be jealous on multiple occasions, and Sherry's except not really dating him, so she should have known this too. Yet she's confident he's just less than thrilled to be next to Sophia.
Okay.
She also tells us that they've kept,
whatever they are,
much on the down low, so we couldn't make a show of wanting to sit together.
And, if holding one another close and rubbing the small of the other's back before smooching is keeping it on the down low, man, I really don't want to know what their standard PDA entails.
Not to mention, they got caught lightly fooling around anyway, and anyone else with eyes saw that they've interacted like wooing teens in past chapters. Hell, Mac getting called out on that by colleagues was practically the entirety of Chapter 9, as well as every interaction Mac has had with Tad. So they can't even get a "you tried" star. The bare minimum threshold of effort has yet to be met.
Anyway, off that unnecessary tangent.
Sherry continues to ignore Jackson, who is still sitting beside her with his arm hanging around her chair, and she not so stealthily texts Mac a sad face emoji, to which he responds with a side-eye emoji.
Oh, mood fam.
But Sherry's too dense to decipher what passive-aggressive side-eye could ever possibly mean. Meanwhile, what the hell is Jackson doing during all this? Is he spying over her shoulder on the text exchange with a little shit-eating grin or something? He's all snuggled up in her personal space and has no comment on Sherry focusing her attention on another dude while in his arm brace? Rude? Other than that, let's take another aside to appreciate that Sarah was gracious enough to include the exact emojis used in the text. Like, using descriptions to attach an image to an emotion is hard, you guys. Remember, simple penguin brain over here. Gotta have that visual aid. Also, and this is purely a nitpick, but Sherry refers to her text messaging app as iMessage, which implies she has an iPhone, but the emojis shown are Google emojis, and she's not texting through Hangouts. I know the Google emojis are cuter than apples, but if Sarah's gonna go out of her way to show us the actual emojis, they could at least be the correct ones.
Oh, the next 2 days, they fly by so fast that there isn't any indication of a scene break. We all get scene change whiplash as a little treat, free of charge. Yay! Sherry has been swamped with press interviews and has no downtime at all before the big premiere night. Because the press totally hounded the novice and not the actual veteran illusionist. Granted, she's the new headlining poster girl, and we gotta keep in line with the author's fame fantasy, so it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. In the midst of it all, it finally dawns on Sherry why Zeb seems put off by her. You see, it's obvious that he's been the jealous boyfriend this whole time, because he used to be the only one who worked exclusively on developing illusions with Charles, and now this new girl waltzes in and steps on Zeb's turf? Oh, if only Sherry could understand where he was coming from, that even though he had never been fair to her, in a lot of ways, he just didn't want to be replaced. He wanted to still be treated like he was important. If only Sherry could get that. If only she could actually listen to him for the first time. She'd realize his mean and nasty interactions came out of his hurt. But, Zeb needs to pull his head out of the jelly jar and understand that this new illusion's pretty heckin' dangerous and complicated, and Sherry's the one doing most of the heavy lifting anyway, so he just needs to chill. Yeah, cool. So it's now suddenly premiere night, my damn neck is gonna break at this rate, and we get our big ol' red carpet event. Unfortunately, there's no word on if Carrot Top or Wayne Newton are present, but dang, all the pomp and circumstance going on here. Oh, remember when Sherry wanted a life without all eyes on her? Yeah, me neither. That might as well have been a lifetime ago.
Sherry's riding that sweet attention high, and she goes back to check on Charles. She enters his office, leaving Chekhov's door slightly ajar, and finds him hunched over their illusion design sketches, all a bundle of nerves. It is the first time we see Charles exhibit vulnerability. Sherry reassures him that everything will be fine. You're forgetting what I can do. We've practiced it enough that I could do it blindfolded. Stop worrying. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, so she did actually tell him the extent of her abilities. Yeah, that's what I'm getting out here. It's safe to conclude that he absolutely knows about her sorcery. Yeah, I still have questions, but all in due time, I guess. Charles is like, I can't help but worry. You know that. It's my job. I wonder how worried he was about Sophia back in chapter 4. Every time I will bring this up. Charles then practically teleports from behind his desk and into Sherry's personal space. Daddy Creepy Hands strikes again as he caresses her cheek, then slowly moves his hand to cup her shoulder. We were standing very close together, and I realized that I loved the close attention. Charles gave me a tight hug, and it was warm and comforting. Okay. Sherry loving close attention is nothing new. In fact, it's rather redundant. However, I must say, to specifically note that Charles rubbed the side of her cheek before slowly cupping her shoulder indicates a deliberate show of intimacy. First we had the My Little Starlet bit, then this display of vulnerability, and now this? I have read enough fanfics and romance novels to know when I'm being baited. Like, you tried to appeal to my age gap kink book, and I respect that. But we're 63% in, so I ask, why do this now? Especially since Sarah went out of her way to avoid dangling that sweet shipping carrot in my face that would have caught my interest to begin with. Then she leapfrogged right over the opportunities to develop their relationship in any direction, really, i.e. with chapters 2 and 11. At least Mac and Jackson got speedrun developments. Charles should have gotten something if Sarah wanted to bait us. We get scene change whiplash once again, this time into Italics Vision, where Mac conveniently approaches Chekhov's door, and he succumbs to his naughty peeping Tom tendencies again. He spies on Sherry and Charles's long and loving embrace and regards it as odd and out of character for Charles. But ever since Mac found those Copperfield show tickets back in chapter 11, he's been pretty sus. Maybe being a nosy voyeur during this private moment will answer some questions. Instead of, being honest and direct with his maybe not actually partner. Or is this another one of those things they just don't talk about? Now, I'm going to read the rest of the scene in its entirety because, well, for one, it's shorter than our beloved chapter 6 Overspeak Behemoth, but also, it is so inane and trite that my colorful paraphrasing would only be an improvement upon the actual f***ing text. Like, I couldn't get any more on the nose if I tried. Clench your beautiful butt cheeks, my friends.
It's going to be the most amazing illusion the world has ever seen, Sherry exclaimed happily. Charles pulled back and looked her right in the eye, his arms still around her.
I'm just being an old man, I guess. I love you more than life itself. It would kill me if something happened to you.
Sherry was smiling as she put her hands on his face. I love you too. She leaned in to kiss him, her face beaming. Mac was disgusted and devastated. How could Sherry betray him like that? After everything they had together? Hadn't he put up with enough with this whole Jackson situation? Angry and frustrated, he couldn't bear to watch her kiss him. Had he only watched just a moment or two longer, he would have seen Sherry kiss Charles innocently on the cheek. Mac didn't see that though, because he looked away before he saw the truth, and therefore in his head, he had turned around right before he saw them make out with tongue. Furious and upset, he stormed down the hall. He needed to think before he did anything he would regret. Tragic. I racked my brain on how I would go to town on this passage, but then I realized
The beauty about overly on-the-nose stupidity, it usually speaks for itself. I love that Mac can endure being cuckolded by one guy, but two? That's where he draws the line. If only these two honest and direct people knew how to be especially more honest and direct with each other. If only. Like, I know this is meant to create relationship conflict because conflict drives a story and the relationship with the push and pull is the more dynamically interesting one, yada yada yada. But manufacturing a misunderstanding, which is among the worst conflict tropes by the way, just to run from it isn't actually a conflict. Their kerfuffle from the last chapter regarding each of their fates or lack thereof, that's a legitimate conflict. Hell, their inability to actually confront the basic relationship roadblocks ahead of them could be the main driving force for their development. But instead, we're carried along the shallow end of this kiddie pool. You know, a wise dumbass once said that themes were for 8th grade book reports, and unfortunately, Handbook for Mortals reads at a 6th grade level. Darn. Also, way to make that on-screen Charles x Sherry ship bait last for all of a page, Serum. That's not how red herrings work. Once again, potential for interesting character dynamics go up in smoke. Thanks. We're out of italics vision. Sherry meets Riley up along the grid. He goes to clip her harness to the wires, but he catches a case of the Butterfingers and backs away from Sherry, looking
like someone was going to shoot him in the head.
Sherry looks over to see what's got Riley in such a panic. It's Mac, storming over and exuding pure malice. But Sherry assures us multiple times that she's certainly the target of his ire, not Riley. Though she doesn't know why. Even though she's got plenty to be guilty of. But I digress. On Mac's order, Riley scurries off and Mac goes to clip Sherry's harness instead. She asks what's wrong, and Mac jerks her toward him. Have you got anything you want to tell me?
He finally said in the coldest monotone voice he'd ever used with me.
Holy shit. I mean, I'm firmly situated in the anti-Sherry camp, but this is unsettling. Max starts to have a full-on breakdown and goes aggro on Sherry, grabbing her shoulders and shaking her about. Sherry gets rightfully nervous as he's jostling her around while they're 20 feet above ground. Turns out, all those months of having your heart strung along isn't good for the psyche. Crit damage done to Mac's mental health. Rip. Mac's all, I know we haven't made any formal commitments, but I have the right to know if you love someone else. Sherry thinks that he's talking about Jackson, saying,
I don't think movie and guitar shopping qualifies as love?
But when Mac interrupts and asks if she hasn't told anyone today that she's in love with them, that's when Sherry's single brain cell lights up. She quickly deduces that Mac must have overheard her conversation with Charles and jumps into de-escalation mode. Yeah, the one time her intuition check just gets a nat 20. The one time! However, before she can really start to talk Mac down, she tells us.
What could I tell him about what was going on? I didn't know if I should tell him everything or not. I knew I needed to say something.
And I can't help but think she's breaking the fourth wall here, wanting to keep something from us? She says that she told someone she loved them, not that she was in love with them. There's a difference. Mac's all, semantics. He said he loved you more than life itself. That's pretty intense, don't you think? Oh, and what's this about movies in a guitar shop? Needless to say, her words do not calm Mac down. His jaw clenches, and he proclaims Sherry to be worse than Clara, who at least came clean to him when he confronted her. And of all the things to do or say, that's what unnerves Sherry. Someone could have smashed her mom's head in with a 9-iron, and Sherry would not have been as devastated as being negatively compared to the ex-girlfriend. Yet our girl perseveres and continues her attempts to de-escalate.
Sometimes relationships aren't black and white, Mac. And sometimes what you see isn't what's really there.
How would she know? She's never been in one, remember? Hell, I'm more qualified on the subject, and I've been a recluse for the past 2.5 years.
How about you let me do the show? Then we can talk about this?
Oh, hey look! Their personal affairs starting to have an adverse effect on their work environment. If only we were warned about this. Once again, the novice has to get the technical director with 10 plus years under his belt to focus on the job and clip her in as the show's about to start.
He does so, not doing a safety check like Riley normally would have.
Oh no, I sure hope something doesn't go wrong. Sherry gets the last word in when he storms away, because of course she does. We jump back into Italics vision again. Max storms past Tad to the main automation board. Then it hit him. Why is he working the board anyway? He's not even a part of automation. He's a damn TD. This is far below his pay grade. But Sherry batted her pretty little eyelashes and asked him to do it. Because reasons. And he caved, like the simp he is. And as a fellow simp, understandable. He's like, this noise, running the board would be putting the lives of many performers in my hand. That isn't something he's already got to think about anyway as technical director? Mac decides that he's now worried about the lives of the performers and isn't confident in his abilities at the automation board, despite being heralded as a jack of all trades. No. He's now totally unprepared for such a responsibility. So what does he do? He calls Cam over and passes the job on to him. And perhaps, you might all be like, but squishy little penguin lad, what's wrong with that? Oh, I am so glad you asked. I don't know the cues for the new illusion. Heck, I haven't worked in automation in over a year. I can't.
Cam tried to argue.
Run it on the fly, Mac yelled as he stomped off, wrapped up in a flurry of emotion. How has he kept his job for over 10 years? Oh, but it gets better. Cam wanted to argue that the better choice was Tad, who was head of automation, but he knew without asking why Mac had radioed him instead. He knew that Tad would have refused since Mac was supposed to be running main, and Tad was the only one who could say no to Mac in a situation like that and get away with it. Cam began to sweat under pressure of being handed a job he barely knew how to pull off. Doesn't this kind of contradict what Sherry told us back in chapter 6 about the crew being familiar with multiple roles? Yet despite that, Cam just starts pushing buttons anyway. Why make the responsible decision to call Tad over when he can just fly by the seat of his pants and hope for the best? YOLO, baby! End of chapter. So, this was Setups and Fakeouts, the chapter, where a failure to establish and follow through on a red herring leads to the worst misunderstanding, where the then subsequent worst decisions are made. I cannot contain my enthusiasm, folks. The next chapter title even invokes the Tower card to really ensure that shit's finally gonna hit some misplaced fan. Place your bets now on how disastrous this show will not maybe be. Lord knows there are plenty of red flags here to run away with.
Why, hello there. So nice of you to drop by. If you'll please become utterly entranced by this crudely drawn hip swiveling, I'd like to deliver my ending spiel. Thank you all for watching. If you like what you see, and how can you not, look at these hips go. Please consider supporting me on my Patreon, where you can get 1 day early access to all upcoming videos, as well as the entire uncut audio of book reviews. You can hear me yap for almost double the amount of time! You can also vote for the next novel for me to suffer through, or enjoy. I'm at y'all's mercy after all. I can even draw sketches for you at child labor prices. Oh, I jest. Kinda. If you're unable to support me on a subscription basis via Patreon, and I totally understand, I also have a Ko-fi page tip jar for your instant generosity needs. You do you, boo. No judgment. Finally, a like and subscribe still goes a long way. I'm eternally grateful for any and all support. You may now peel your eyes away from this sexy, sexy penguin body. Remember to stay hydrated, friends, and take care.